Good morning. Good to be with you all today. How many of you grow any of your food? Okay, good. I didn't until about 20 years ago, although I grew up that way. We grew up in Nazareth with farms like everybody else. We had a small dairy, so unpasteurized milk. And I have 11 siblings, so Mom didn't grow much of a garden until the last ones were getting along. But I remember that kind of food, and that's what got me back to starting to grow some food myself, even though I said, I'm not a food producer, but I am. I can be, and I choose to be. So Ogallala Commons is a nonprofit education and resource education and leadership organization. I should know that after 22 years. So what do we work on all over the Ogallala Aquifer region? We have three main programs: workforce and leadership development, and that's really just helping people from high school to college, even older adults, to get the work experience they want, to come back to their communities if they'd like to, because that's a choice. And there's a way that it can be done, and internships help, so we do those. We also have a program on stewarding natural resources. Maybe some of you have been to our Playa Field Days, our stewarding our aquifer field days. But a third program is really important, that's rebuilding local food systems. Why are those so important? Because our mission is invigorating, thriving communities in the Great Plains. And you need those three things. You need a way for people to transition into the kind of careers that they would like to do, that they're skilled to do, that we need them to do in our communities, but they may not know about those growing up unless we have ways for them to get that kind of work experience in our communities. And that's what internships, community-based internships, can do. They'll need to know about natural resources and what we draw our life from. And then if we're going to have thriving communities, we have to have fresh, nutrient-dense food. And where does that come from? Some of that, and maybe more than we would imagine, needs to come from our region, not from 1,500 miles away, and not highly processed. So how does all that happen? This is me when I was really getting good at it. Some raised beds. I don't have I have 5 raised beds. I've kind of built them up over the last 20 years. So that's some potatoes, and there's green beans in there. So that is something that we can learn how to do, and that's an individual thing, but we need structural things too that allow us to have fresh, nutrient-dense food. And so that's one thing Ogallala Commons has been working on. Why do we need to work on this? Because pretty much like Dr. Edwards just said, bad food's killing us. Highly processed food is affecting us. So I don't know what it is in the South Plains. This is a study by the Mary E. Bivens Foundation, so that's the top 26 counties in the Panhandle. But these are the food insecurity rates, and this is really with seniors. So it's probably higher, a little bit higher with families. But if you're in Castro County, where I am, there's one grocery store. Nazareth used to have 2. That was a long time ago, all right? But there's one grocery store. So where does everybody go? Walmart, Plainview or Hereford, okay? Well, a lot of cases you can get some pretty good produce, relatively speaking. But so this is really affecting us. The counties to the east of us, really high, 15%. Hall County, it's really extremely difficult to get fresh, nutrient-dense food. And that affects our families, that affects school systems, that affects our health. So this is why, if we're going to have thriving communities, we have to address this. And it won't be done overnight, it won't be done in 5 years. This is a long-term process. So how are we going about it? One thing we're doing is building coalition. How do we do that? First of all, trying to find out who is find out who's growing food. So when I get this slide changed, there we go. All right. So what we started doing in 2015, just starting to build a list of who is selling food directly to the public. Now there's a lot of meat, pastured meat, just locally grown meat, not as much vegetables, but that has changed a lot. There's farmers markets, so we catalog those. And that's great for the summer and the growing season. What about the rest of the year? Well, I would say in the last 10 years, there's a lot of high tunnels that have gone up. So there are people who are producing food that you can buy year-round. Not a lot, but there are. So we call that, besides identifying people in our region, in our locality, that's relationship building. We built some digital presence too. We started monthly producer calls for people who are growing food to learn from each other, because that's really helpful. You feel pretty alone sometimes doing that kind of work. And we started doing food summits, local food summits. We have one next month in Tullar that I'll let Berlin talk about more. But we're really focused on rural communities. Again, we can make it to Amarillo and Lubbock and buy food, and I have to tell you, my wife and I, we buy things at Natural Grocer in Amarillo, because we can, because you got to go there anyway, it seems like, once every week or more often. But we also try to grow it ourselves and find out who around us can I get eggs from, who around us has got some food that I can purchase. But we're trying to build relationships that would support a rural-based food system. Okay, so another big part we're working on now, that's one of our local food summits in Amarillo. That was back in 2018. So again, this continues, and we have a digital presence too called myfoodshed.org. So that's available. Lists of growers are in there and things like that. So myfoodshed.org, we started that a few years ago. But now we're to the stage of this middle part here, the purple part. How do you build some kind of infrastructure to support local and regional food systems? So there are examples we went to look at around the country. I wasn't so much part of that. Berlin will say more on that. But what it does consist of is, first of all, this funny thing. We have a discussion about what is local? What does local food mean? Some people say local is just my community, where the star is, just my locality. Some organizations and even some state funding and regulation says local food is grown in Texas. It's Texas-grown food. Okay? We like to talk about local food with that star over 3 states. So Texas, Panhandle, South Plains, Eastern New Mexico, Northeast New Mexico, Southeast Colorado, Oklahoma Panhandle. Interestingly, like in Southeast Colorado, Springfield, Baca County schools, they have some funding to buy local food. Local food there is 300 miles away. Guess who's within 300 miles of Springfield, Colorado? A lot of us, a lot of growers. So what I'm saying is we have a regional-based food shed that really goes across 3 states. And in that way, you could have year-round supplies for things like schools, small schools, and some senior centers, and that's really what we're working on now. Really, it's about linking people who are growing with institutions who could buy their food, not just at farmers markets, not just once in a while, but more year-round. And again, I'd love to tell you it's going great. It is, but it's really small. But how are we growing it? I'm going to let Berlin get more into that. I'll just finish up by saying we do have a food hub. You've got to have some locations. We don't have just one, but right now we have just one in Raton, New Mexico. This is, an old building that was vacant. So someone who owns it now, we rent space from them, and we have cold storage and frozen storage. And what that allows us to do is to aggregate greens and vegetables. The frozen storage would be for beef, and why is that important? Because if a school needs a certain amount, they can't really go to one producer or that producer. They need a hub. They need a place where they could get a little bit more. And the producer needs a place where, hey, I can't provide it all at once, but if I could aggregate with some other people, then there's enough to make a route, a weekly route or a monthly route. So that's been going on. We have this in Raton. Now we have funding to get one going in the Texas Panhandle. Probably Amarillo, but you can't just have one. And these are the kind of things we're using are storage containers, because they're insulated. Or, I'm sorry, they're not insulated, but they're easy to insulate. And you can put a cooler on it, and boom, you've got a nice refrigeration system. So we have 2 of them in the warehouse in Raton. So next is to get something like that in Amarillo, but we need it other places as well. But again, building a food hub that supports different routes. Whoops, how did I do that, Berlin? All I did was push the button. Okay, now I'm into yours. How did that happen? Okay, back here, just a couple more things. So there's Berlin with the trailer. That's real important too. We don't make it to where the producers have to bring everything to us. We run a route to go and pick up things and to get them to senior centers or schools, but also to our hub. So we're part of the transportation. And, whoops, go one more, and then I'm going to give it to you, Berlin. So here's that that's about 300-mile circle. That's really the kind of rural-based food hub we're developing. So you've got Raton over there. Let's see here. Whoop, yeah. So we got the storage place. We've also got a way to move food this way. Not so much this way yet, but that's what we're building now. Food hub here. All these green dots that look like farmers, they are farmers. Those are actual growers in our food hub. So we've got that much going. Everywhere where you see a truck, we're doing a delivery from there. Well, we got 5 trucks. So we've only been at this a year and a half. And it's this far along. You say, well, how do you do that? There's a way to finance these things. And I had it up there a minute ago. Let's see. Get to it. Here we go. Yeah. Texas, New Mexico, New Mexico, Colorado, all have state funding, there's federal funding, there's other levels. You can't just depend on one way to do this, so we try to be really diverse. And again, it's supporting those growers, but also making it possible for the small institutions to buy this food. So Berlin, I think now we need to talk about how this is working.
Hello, my name is Arellano. I am Director of Operations for Ogallala Commons, and I'm also a local producer out of Tucumcari, New Mexico. So I'll be talking to you about putting these thoughts and our program into action. Last year, Ogallala Commons partnered up with the New Mexico Department of Health and the Senior WIC program, and to deliver some fresh produce to seniors in the New Mexico area. Because we had some of this infrastructure already worked on, we had converted that trailer that you had seen up there into a cool pool trailer. So the New Mexico Department of Health asked if we would partner with them to do their food deliveries. So they aggregated produce from local producers in New Mexico, and we took their produce to certain places throughout New Mexico and did deliveries during their commodities. So we've thought that that was something that was very important. Pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with commodities. It's a very good program, provides people with food that's much needed, but a lot of that food is highly processed. And a lot of them goes to our seniors who have a lot of medical issues and probably can't even eat most of the stuff that are there. So we thought this would be a great partnership to, while they're there to pick up food, to also pick up some fresh produce that's locally grown. So that just kind of blossomed from there. We thought, well, why stop here? We have producers that we have in our coalition from Texas that we've been working on, and they're ready, they're growing, and there's food that needs to go somewhere. So once the New Mexico route's finished, we decided to go ahead and do our own senior meal boxes. So our mission and goal was to provide this produce and this program to seniors. We felt that it was important to do seniors just because not only do our seniors need our help, but I guess growing up as a latchkey kid too, my grandparents that was a house where we went and ate and they had food and everyone gathered. So we thought this would be a great trickle-down effect for kids to become familiar with local food, what's grown in their area, and connect with their families, connect with their grandparents, and just be able to enjoy local food together. So that's why we picked seniors. We figured that didn't just stop at seniors, it was kind of that trickle down and brought in family and camaraderie with that. Our other goal and mission was to provide fair market prices to our producers. It's one thing to extort them for their food, but it's a lot of work, and it's it takes money to make money. It's a lot of work, a lot of man hours to grow all this delicious food, and so we feel it's only fair that our producers get paid a fair price, and that they would only have to focus on growing their food, and we'll worry about the market and getting it to where it needs to be. And lastly was just building the community, collaborating with relationships that we've built in the past, our community partners like the Bivens Foundation, Tool Creek, Tri-County Mills, and continuing with the partnerships and our community interns and our youth programs that we do. So we felt that altogether this enhanced the local economy while supporting local business and families and tying each other together through healthy food and learning. So with that, we did our Texas Fresh Senior Meal Program. So this program, we did 4 deliveries. It was from July to September. And in the 4 deliveries, we delivered 334 total bags, which served about 127 households and 190 individuals. And we aggregated about 8,564 pounds of food from our local producers. And our communities that we were able to serve were Kittiquay, Silverton, Tulia, and Flomont. Okay, and so our producers that we worked with 16 producers. Most of them were Texas Panhandle and High Plains, Texas producers, as we were serving our Texas seniors. But along with that whole local, we also have a lot of our New Mexico producers that were ready and willing to provide fresh produce as well. So we did work with 16 local producers, and how that worked is we kind of laid out what produce we wanted to see in our bags and how much, like a pound of tomatoes, a pound of this. So we got our group of producers that are part of our cohorts that attend our local food summits already, and we asked them if they would have produce for us to pick up. So once we had our group of producers that were willing and ready to provide produce, we would let them know what we needed, and I'd say about the day before, Chris and I would go to each farm and pick up the produce and have it ready for the next day to build our senior bags. So at Tri-County Senior Center in Tulia, we would take all our produce there, get our local interns, a lot of other community partners and volunteers, and we would just start building up our bags. And each produce would contain local beef, eggs, cheese, and of course your vegetables. There's some more things. We tried to also provide fresh fruit, and these are stuff from Idalou. Some more pictures of our produce. Like it's stuck. Okay. And one thing that we did come across, and a lot of seniors were like, "Man, this is too much food. It's just me," and it's I don't even know what to do with some of this stuff because we would provide winter squash, different varieties, and so we thought it was fun to have them. We trade whatever you don't like. If you don't like these tomatoes, trade with each other. So it was just community building. We had other partners come out. They made recipes with the ingredients that were included in their meal bags. So seniors were able to use the produce with things that they didn't know before. Mushrooms were a part of it as well. And these are just some of our partners that helped us put everything together and make it happen. So hopefully this year we do have plans to do it again. Of course, it takes money to get this going, and we're lucky to have the Bivens Foundation, who continues to provide support for us. And we're hoping that we can at least up our 4 deliveries to at least maybe double for this next coming year. Okay. And then just another thing that I had kind of touched on is our local food summits. And this is a great way for us how we met a lot of our local producers. So we do local food summits and our local monthly producer calls. And it's just a great way for people in our area to get together peer-to-peer who are growing food, whether it's hobby, growing for market, but just to be able to have one place where we can all get together, talk about what we're doing, what's working, what's not working, what we'd like to see different, and just follow up and build off of that. And those cohorts has really been able to take our program to the next level, kind of putting our money where our mouth is, putting this senior meal bags together really helped us put this program into action and really put some results. This is our next food summit in Tullar. It's going to be March 4th. We have quite a few speakers, some local food producers, as well as some program directors and NRCS people that'll come and hopefully answer some questions that are pretty hot on topic right now. That's it for me.
Hello, my name is Jessica Tullar Caroom, and similar to what Berlin is doing, we have an online farmers market here in the Lubbock area, and so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today. That would be good. All right, didn't even think to get that. Okay, so we call it LBK Grown, and this developed because we found that most growers in our area were going to market, but we had a glut of produce that was available midweek, especially in the summer, and just trying to connect, again, that market with our growers. And so I got a grant from the Small Producer Initiative out of San Marcos, and we pulled together some money to buy software the first year. So it's called Local Food Marketplace, and they operate all across the country. And so it allows producers to list their own produce. My producers set their price. It is what they are going to get paid. The system takes 3%, and that helps cover the credit card fees and any incidentals with the credit cards, not just the fees, but there's even months we're not selling things, we have to pay the credit card company to have that service. This year it's covering a little bit of the software cost because that was just a 1-year grant for that first one. So that's what we have been doing. We also had a $50 buy-in for growers, but you'll see what we get out of that. Let's see. So we had a couple of growers here in Lubbock that were already selling to restaurants, but my other goal was to try and get more growers into restaurants. And so originally started as mostly aimed at restaurants. We have a minimum purchase of $40, and if you buy $50, which is not that much more, then you have no delivery fee, but $10 otherwise. So we're trying to incentivize you to get that bigger purchase. So, and this is one of our good friends. We'll talk about our partners, but these are 2 of our partner farmers at their markets. So this is Kelsey with Faith to Farm and Lucy with Juicy Lucy. She's now in Idalou. Now which way does this go? All right, so this is what it looks like, the website. The pros are that ordering for the customer, the ordering and payment is all online. They can track their orders. We can track their orders. We can run reports. We have some idea of what people are interested in. The cons are that delivery is set at once per week, and again, back to the pros, it sends out reminder emails. It sends out all of those things to our growers saying this much has been ordered. It has a very set schedule, which is helpful because it's all built in. It's also can be a little frustrating if you have a last minute change and you're like, everybody recheck your stuff. So, but luckily I have great partners and we're all grace with each other, all the things. So yeah, we have one delivery per week. It's Wednesday delivery. Eventually, other systems, you can work up to multiple days. If we had enough demand, we would be able to do, Wednesday and Friday or something like that. But for our restaurants, we found that was the best. For our producers, that's when they had a lot. That way they could get rid of some of that produce in that midweek, because then they're going to go to market. All of our markets are on Saturday in this area. So that kind of gives them some spacing. So after pitching and going to restaurants and bringing our flyer and bringing samples to several different places, I got a few new restaurants, but not as many as I kind of thought I could be able to get. And so about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I guess, in the fall, we started a retail option. And this was based on the software people telling us most of the people that have this software use it for their CSA. So traditionally, a CSA, right, is that purchased upfront option. This is similar in that it's farmer's choice, and there's a box. And we set it at $25. We actually have 2 boxes now. We set it at $25, so I put about $23 of produce into that box. That way, the person's paying $25. It covers a little bit of that software and the actual box itself. We do try and take those boxes back and encourage people to kind of close that loop and defray our costs, but it is what it is. So, and we have 4 pickup locations. 3 of those are with growers. That's a really nice option to be able to make relationships with your customers. That 4th is a business, and they have a cooler, so it's a brewery, and so that was a nice option. And also they're open a lot later, and so you can have some of your people be able to pick up late. We do have a delivery. Again, we try and disincentivize people from using it, but we do have it. Let's see, I don't remember how I set this up, but that's a box. You can see what we had. And we also include recipes like Berlin was talking about. Some of the conversations we've had, because we're going to mix produce from different growers. We're going to have some items from certain farms. And I'm sure you guys probably are already jumping ahead of me. You probably have, the quality you expect out of your farm, and you don't necessarily want it to be mixed with maybe somebody you're not 100% about their quality. So that we had to develop some trust and have some conversations about what does that look like? What do we think quality is? I mean, one of the phrases we said was, we're going to have no dirt, okay? You got to wash off your stuff, And I mean, we've had conversations about yellow cucumbers, or whatever it is. And so or okra that are too big. You guys know all this. And basically, if the growers, I have a farmer advisory board, they are there at the stuffing, and if they decide they're like, we don't like this, so far, we've been able to go find a replacement, on site. So some farmers are like, I got cucumbers, I'll take care of this. And so they just go grab it and we fix it. And that means that person's not gonna get paid for that item. So that's the trade-off. And there's some very, I think, helpful conversations in learning across growers from that experience. Like I was saying, it's also team building. It's a chance at this box stuffing. So this is Kelsey again. She's in here a couple times, obviously. And this is Ethan from E3 Farms. And they're talking about a cedar. And so, I mean, yeah, we're stuffing boxes, but we're usually stuffing boxes on site at somebody's place. And they're like, hey, what are you doing about this? Blah, blah, blah. And it just is a natural opportunity to have those conversations and learn from each other. And then the other thing is we would have these recipes, and sometimes, so for example, we find our growers have had great success growing turnips. But turnips aren't always people's favorite vegetable. I don't know about you guys. But we discovered one of our farmers has a turnip soup recipe, and so she made it for all of us. That's what's in the little solo cup. And we were, multiple people, Ethan included, was like, actually, I would like this card, please. And so, so we sold people on turnips. We had multiple boxes with turnips last fall. So I've got some tips if you need some turnip recipes. But that's just a fun thing that we get to share and learn from each other too. This stuff that we're growing, we're excited about, and we could even find new ways to get to eat it. So, I have 2 bars here. So 2023, you can see in red, and 2024 is in blue. So, in 2024, I had 15 different growers selling produce on the site. Some of those were like a one-time thing. We did potatoes, from a bigger grower, and we're able to bring them in, or corn or something like that. And I've got, like I said, my advisory group, my 4 main farmers. I started this originally. But we added some pretty consistent partners this year. I think we were up to really consistently 7 or 8 every period. And so over the whole year, it was 15. We have 4 main restaurants, and then 2 growers. So sometimes a grower is like, I'm going to market in another location. I'm going to bring some apples with me. They got permission from the market manager there to be able to do that, and bought some from Lucy and brought them with. So we had some cross purchases as well, which is very helpful. One of our growers also has a market store, and so she was buying some things for her store occasionally. So that's a I didn't even think about that when we got the software, that would be a helpful thing. But if you need to find produce from somebody else, you have a whole list. You can see what's available. That's the beauty of the software. We have about 100, I have 250 people signed up on the site. I think this past year we had about 100 people actually getting produce from us. And that's up from, the past year, which was, I bet, 40, I think in 2023. So we had 4 different, that's that last line, subscription box seasons. So like a spring, a summer, kind of a late summer, fall, and then a fall. And each of those boxes we sold about 25 shares. And each of those shares, this is what I didn't say earlier, we have a $25 box, which was our regular box. And then in the summer, we started offering a chemical-free box because I have some customers that really wanted only chemical-free items. Now that means that maybe your friend in the regular box is going to get apples. I have not found an organic apple orchard here in the Lubbock area. I would love if you have someone you want to tell me about. That's great. So your friend's going to get apples, and you're going to get something else. I might not be able to find no chemical fruit, just saying. So we're going to do our best, and sometimes it's microgreens, sometimes it's mushrooms. We just kind of got to use what we got. So that's why that chemical-free box, it's a little bit more, it might have a slightly different items because of what's available. That's why we asked for a little bit more money, to be able to have room in the box to get those items. So 25 shares for each of these seasons. Sometimes people have a half week, they go every other week, so it's going to be more than 25 people. So we had a total of 35 of our 52 weeks covered. So that's pretty cool. And so that's like a limiting factor. I don't know about you guys, but getting started, like right now, there's not a lot of produce that I could find around here. I'm trying. But we got to catch it as soon as as soon as people have enough, then we got to start the subscription box. So we had more than 30,000 sold in 2024. And those are the monthly payments to growers. So these are my team. So myself with Growing Together Texas, I have the nonprofit. Lucy's with Juicy Lucy's. And then we've got Kelsey, of course, Emily and Jana Pikert from Pikert Farms, and Ethan from E3. And I noticed you had our friends on your senior box as well. Love it, love it, love it. So there's my contact information.